Hello, beautiful friends. Welcome back to another episode of Random Thoughts, Some Useful. I'm so glad you've joined us. Whether you're out for a drive, on a walk, or relaxing at home, this is your go-to space for inspiration, insight, and real-life stories. I'm your host, Jen, cancer survivor, clarity coach, and creative behind apothecaryingjen.com. Join me as we explore thought-provoking topics while I interview incredible guests and share life and business hacks to feed your soul. Let's dive in. In this heartwarming episode of Random Thoughts, Some Useful, I'm taking you behind the scenes of a moment I will never forget, watching my baby brother and his sweet family bring home their very first dairy calf. There's something incredibly tender about the trust of a sacred animal, watching her inch closer, lay her head on my knee, and choose connection. It reminded me of the quiet power of returning to simple, sacred things. But this moment is part of something even bigger. We talk all things raw milk, regenerative farming, building legacy, and what it means to raise your children and your animals with intention, care, and deep respect for the land. This episode is full of heart, hope, and the kind of wisdom that grows from the soil up. Whether you're a homesteader, a dreamer, or just someone who craves more meaning and less noise, this one's for you.
Does it pick up a lot of?
It's fine. I'm not worried. Yeah, it's very organic anyway. Like, I mean, we're out in the yard all the time with all kinds of, you know what I mean?
So you've got enough of what you've got?
Yeah, I got some tea.
Do you want to just eat later?
Yeah, I'm just not feeling it right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm not really either.
I had some collagen protein in my coffee, and that'll hold me over for a bit.
Okay.
Thank you. Love you.
Oh, goodness.
I also drank a glass of raw milk. By the way, we have a gallon of milk for you.
Let's just start there. Let's talk about raw milk and how long you guys have been
Doing raw
consuming it and all of the things you know about it and that kind of stuff. Because there's a lot of, false information around.
A lot of fear.
Yeah, lots of fear.
Maybe 5 years.
Really, that long?
Yeah. I think close to 5 years now.
Leon was a baby? Maybe whenever he stopped breastfeeding?
Yeah. No, maybe it was a little bit. So Leon's
he's
almost
a little bit older.
9.
Yeah.
So
He was 4.
he was around 4.
Oh, maybe when Lincoln was born.
Yeah, I think it was whenever Lincoln was born, and then after he stopped nursing, we went to raw milk. We had, around the same time, switched to homeschool. It was right after Leon did pre-K at Newcastle.
He did?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and but he never did anything after that.
Oh, that's right. Peyton was going to school there then also.
Right. And so since then, we've been doing raw milk because we switched to homeschool. And before we switched to homeschool, we had found a lady locally that was distributing raw milk from a friend that milked it, but her friend just didn't have the network that she did as far as like social media outreach or whatever. I don't think her friend is on social media or whatever. And so our south neighbor, we found out from them that they had found a lady on Facebook that was selling raw milk. Well, it just so happened that whenever we contacted her to get raw milk, it wasn't her milk, it was, like I said, of her friend that she was distributing it for. And this lady has 11 kids, and she's homeschooled all of them, and she did home births for all of them.
Okay.
And so then...
So she's the one that you get the milk from, but the other one distributes it?
Used to.
Okay.
That's how we started.
Helps, yeah.
Yeah. And so the lady that she actually was distributing the milk from is actually a closer neighbor than the lady we were getting it from.
Okay.
And she just lives around the corner here. But she ended up being kind of inconsistent, some family issues, not being able to milk all the time. And so then we had to look for another source. So then we found another source south of Blanchard, kind of midway between Blanchard and Lindsay. And So, and then she had a bigger operation, so it was a self-serve, just you come in, get your milk, and then you leave. You just pay cash. They have a steel building that they've turned into, I want to say it was a groomer before. Maybe they were doing like animal grooming on their farm there where they live. And then they converted the building after doing the grooming, and it's set up for a dairy now. And I think they have 4 cows. And they just have a couple refrigerators inside the little lobby area of their barn, because it's kind of set up for like a business. I mean, it is set up. It's got a counter as soon as you walk in, a bathroom and an office, and then just what would be a big sitting area. And they've got little kid toys and stuff. I don't think they have kids in their family that hang out in there while they're milking the cows. But anyway, you just walk in and you get the milk, and they just have in the refrigerator a box that you just put the money in. It's just a cardboard box, just a small cardboard box, and it's a nice facility. It looks relatively new, so that's where we found to get more milk, since the first lady was kind of not as consistent as we needed. And so the first lady was $6 a gallon. The second place was $8 a gallon. And then now we've moved on to a third place that's closer than the one south of Blanchard. And it's a similar deal to the second one, where it's first come, first serve, but not so much, because you need to order a day in advance. They have 50 cows that they milk, and they still sell some to a milk distributor or whatever processing facility, but they sell a large majority of it to the public locally. And that is just like a day in advance. You call, say, hey, I need 4 gallons, can you? And yeah, we'll have it ready for you tomorrow. And then you go by and pick it up. Still the honor system.
Yeah.
Walk in, put your money in a cardboard box, and get your milk and walk out.
I love it.
And that's
it really reminds me of Germany. How simple and just precious everything is over there. There's different sides of things that over there,
but modernized in a lot of
you know what
ways.
I mean. There was a restaurant that we would, anytime we would sponsor new couples, new families that would come in, we would take them. It was called Silbersee, and it was on a lake, they called it, which was just a little tiny pond, right? Mm-hmm. What we're used to, but it was right on the lake. And you would have to call on Thursday and order your chickens for Friday night, because they literally would butcher them Friday morning and roast them that day. And
that's awesome.
I mean, it was just, so many things like that over
experience.
there. And like how you lived in the village and you walked down to your little market and you got all your fresh everything that day, and their little tiny fridges, and, purposefully, so that you get fresh stuff rotated, not keeping it in the deep freezers and the... Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, that's cool. This is this third place that we're going to now, which is closer, and it's $6 a gallon. So we're back to 6 from 8. We started at 6, now it then went to $8 a gallon. Now it's back to 6. But it's a little old lady, little old man, probably in their late 70s, and they milk twice a day. And that's actually who I bought the calf from.
Okay.
One of the first times we went over there, I got an opportunity to talk to the old farmer and introduced myself, told him thank you for the milk, we really appreciate it, and just talked about the family, just got to know him a little bit. And then towards the end of the conversation, I just said, hey, we've got our own beef cows and sheep and pigs and chickens, and from time to time, and we would like to eventually get a dairy cow, and if you ever have a calf that's available. He said, well, I don't have one now, but I do from time to time, just depending on different circumstances. And it was literally the next week. He said, I've got a calf for you. And the one that he had born when I asked, he was expecting to have some more born right near. And the way that a lot of dairy farmers, they want batches. So kind of not litter mates in the sense that they're all born from the same mama cow, but to where they're all born in the same week.
Okay.
Within a few days or same day or whatever. And it just makes them more manageable. You can
Rather than
get
different
them all on the
stages
same
of
schedule
life.
and so on.
Okay.
And so he artificially inseminates them with straws. And he can manage the birthing process and so on, so you're all keeping them around the same date and so on. But anyway, this one was 10 weeks old, and the next closest 8 were 2 weeks old.
Oh, wow.
And so this one's just by itself, and it's really just not going to work with the way that I manage my herd.
Well,
and
it's really better for them, too, because it's almost like they grow up with siblings or cousins and stuff like, you know what I mean? Rather than being an only child out there by yourself.
Right. So, I wish I had the money at the time and the opportunity to buy a second so I could have 2, obviously, because they're a herding animal. And so that's something that concerns me a little bit with the lack of socialization that she's getting currently. And so I know whenever she is included in the herd of our beef cows, which that's who she'll run with, I think she'll have kind of a rough time. And that makes me sad.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like
not
integrating?
Yeah, and it'll just take a minute for her to integrate and get them to get used to her and her to get used to them and understanding the pecking order, rather than growing up from birth realizing that is how things work in a herd.
Yeah.
And so that concerns me a little bit, especially since she is a different type of cow, because she's not as beefy as our beef cattle.
She's a Jersey, you said?
Yeah. And then we've got Black Angus Brahma cross that we have for beef cattle, which is a good beef cow. And they're great, and they're just not as docile. They're a little more aggressive. Not necessarily to us as humans, because they're just a little more skittish, to be honest with you. They're not... haven't really handled them since birth like you do a dairy cow, because you're not milking them every day, so it's just kind of unnecessary. You still want them to be trained to a bucket and come when you call, and they do that, and we're able to walk up and pet them, but the young babies, they're just not real sociable with humans. They tend to get more so as they get older, because they realize gradually over time that you're not going to try to eat them or something. You're not a predator. I mean, you are a predator technically. Eventually, but not from the sense of like a coyote or wolf
right.
or some type of wild predator. But anyway, so that's a little bit of a concern with me, with her. We just don't have our cows here now because they're at our in-laws since we're about to move, and but we need her here so that she gets used to us. So the isolation concerns me a little bit. Not that I don't think that she'll not assimilate. You know what I mean? I think she'll be fine, but
it's almost like
a little sad.
Yeah, it's almost like not necessarily now because it's transformed so much, but like back when I was going down the path of homeschooling justice and everybody was so concerned about her socialization and all this, you know what I mean? It's almost like those kinds of things where you worry about kids that are isolated like that. But like I said, nowadays and even when I was starting, it was starting to transform where there's so many other, resources and co-ops and different things, sports even, teams that they could be a part of, which Peyton was with volleyball and things like that. So yeah, anyways, but almost kind of the same kind of concerns where you just want them to be well-rounded and...
Yeah, I mean, a little different because...
Obviously, cow and children, but...
yeah. Well, I mean, like a child isolated from other children, you're just keeping them from behaving like unruly children.
True.
But a calf raised by humans, they're just not getting the same social aspect that a herd of cattle would give them.
Yeah.
A little different. But yeah, I know what you mean. Yes, similar.
Similar
sure.
concerns.
But anyway, we're excited. 2 years from now, we'll have raw milk after she gives birth for the first time. You can wait. You can usually breed within 18 months, but you're still not getting a calf until after that. So
Right. So still 2
years.
years-ish.
9-month gestation cycle. So you're still waiting 2 years.
And then are you milking while she's nursing, or you wait until...
For the first bit, I still need to do a little bit of reading on it because I've never raised my own dairy cow.
Maybe
but-
just to keep her used to you, kind of.
Oh yeah,
type
yeah.
thing.
I mean, obviously, we're gonna still. I mean,
Dad was saying something about you're gonna have to put her head in a something, and there's all kinds of, he grew
stanchion.
up. Okay, he grew up. I'm sure you've done all the research, but he was talking about how all the things you got to do. I said, well, maybe we need to do a podcast episode, Dad, because he the little dairy right around the corner from where they live now is where anytime we drive by it, he says, this is where I put that baby calf in my trunk. And then he tells the story about the old man telling him the manure spreader. It was before school one morning, and he was trying to work the manure spreader, and the guy said, well, you got to keep it on low gear. If you turn it up, go too fast. And,
It was actually football practice.
Yeah, that's what it was.
It
So
was football practice.
Yeah.
He was late for football practice, and he
Yes.
was working for this farmer, and you can tell the story.
Yeah, no, go ahead, because you've
And
heard it. It's good.
The farmer said, "Hey, you got to keep it in low gear because when you start spreading it, it'll go wild if you turn it up." Well, he was running late, and he didn't listen to the farmer, and he turned it up, and it just got absolutely everywhere
He
in
said it was
a
a mile
second.
high.
In a second, it got all over him, all over the tractor, everywhere.
Manure.
And it was just manure all over him, and he had to go to football practice right after that. And he tried to rinse off with a water hose, so he showed up to football practice smelling like cow crap and
funny.
looked like a wet dog. And
So, anyways, I don't know why I started telling you that.
But yeah, I'm sure he could give you some advice. But I don't mean this in this narcissistic, arrogant way.
Well,
but
you do all of your research that you can on everything.
I tend to not listen to old farmers. I will listen to them and humor them, and not in an arrogant way or anything, but and appreciate their advice and their knowledge that they're attempting to pass down. But more times than not, you just meet these old guys, and they tend to tell you to spray weed killer on everything and synthetic fertilizer, and you got to vaccinate for everything. And,
right.
And it's because they just have been indoctrinated.
Yeah.
And so you got to take the good with the bad, and you've got to use your own discernment to determine what is, and then also just know what your path is that you're trying to follow, and then stick to that regardless of what information people are trying to generously give you. Obviously it comes from a good place. They're trying to help, and I seek knowledge, and I do ask questions from those old guys that have a lot of experience. And that doesn't mean they don't ever give good experience, because they do, for sure. And I love those opportunities to talk to those guys. But
it's just like everything in life. You just kind of take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah. But anyway, as far as nursing her and milking, I think you want to give her a few days with the calf by herself, and then you'll slowly introduce her to milking, maybe a little bit this, one day, and then the next day maybe a little bit more, and then the next day a little bit more. Maybe it's every other day. I'll have to read from some of the organic guys that I follow and see what they recommend. Justin Rhodes is a guy that homeschools his kids, church from home, really involved in homesteading events and stuff like that. He does YouTube videos, and he does everything organically. He does a challenge every year, grow all of our food that we can in 100 days, and then he raises livestock and rotationally grazes their animals and stuff. And
that's cool.
so he's a really good resource that I like to seek out. And then Joel Salatin is another guy. I've read a few of his books, and he's just a really incredible guy. His mom and dad, or dad specifically, was part of the U.S. government at one point, going into foreign countries and helping them develop their agriculture. And his dad, years ago, and him and his family, I can't remember if he has any siblings, but they lived in Argentina, and they developed a lot of their agriculture. And so then the Argentinian government shifted power, and I think the story is that a dictator came in power, and then confiscated all the farms nationwide. Ran him and his mom out of but they actually owned land. I want to say it was like 800 acres or something in Argentina, and they took it back from their family. So he was an American citizen and an Argentinian citizen, owned like 800 acres or something like that. The Argentinian government took back the land, so they were homeless and got no money for their land. And then they ended up moving back to the United States and wound up in the Shenandoah Valley in Virginia and got a farm. Started with, I want to say, maybe 100 acres or something. And then rebuild. I think they have like 5,000 or 10,000 acres now in the area. And he's gradually bought other farmland around them. And he's arguably the number one organic farmer in the United States. Maybe not so in the standpoint of volume, but in my mind, just kind of the guy that I want to model most of my stuff after.
Kind of the authority that
Yeah,
you are
and he's-
interested in.
He's on social media, and I got him to sign one of my books a while back at a homesteading event in Pryor, Oklahoma that we went to, and got to meet him. And
How cool.
wish I would have got to talk to him a little bit more. Obviously, he was, being pulled in so many different directions by so many people while we were there, but it was cool to meet him. And he's got a lot of information on rotational grazing and raising your animals the way that you want to. But I ended up meeting another couple up there. They're probably in their 60s. And they have a book. It's called Feed Your Farm from Your Farm. And they have cows, they have chickens, pigs, I'm not sure what else, but the majority of the farm animals, and the whole book is about teaching you how to specifically grow what you need for your farm, on your farm, when it comes down to grain and hay and food for your animals, rather than having to outsource it from some other place. And I haven't got through that book yet, but it's a really cool book, and they're a really cool family. I can't remember their name off the top of my head, but I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, we'll have to figure it out and I'll link it with the episode.
Yeah.
All these things that we've talked about, we'll put the resources down below.
And apparently they have social media too, so I haven't looked it up, but
Yeah, you'll just have to send me the links. There's a previous coworker that I would like to connect you with that he lives up in Tulsa. He and his wife, they moved from, I think, Utah, something like that, somewhere up in that area, but they moved down here to buy land, more affordable, and I don't remember the amount.
more rain.
Yeah, I don't remember the amount that they bought, but anyways, they are homeschooling their kids also. I'm not sure how much homesteading they do, but they had a business that was, he was so sweet. He would send me a container of this magnesium cream that they made, that his wife was making out of essential oils and magnesium flakes and, just really good stuff. And I used it all throughout my healing journey, I guess, if you will, but they recently sold it to one of their friends that was looking for a business, something like that for his wife. Yeah. And so, long story short, he had tried to get into I don't want to say mass production, but kind of, you know what I mean, not them doing it themselves, and they invested in this company to help them and got really taken by this company, unfortunately, and never got their product produced. And so anyways, they're just kind of done at this point, but long story short, they're kind of up in that area, and he's just a really great guy. He's a great Christian man. I've never gotten to meet his wife, but I would love to. She seemed like just the sweetest thing on social media, but we kept in touch. We had lunch the other day, and just he reminds me a lot of you. He's easy to talk to, and he's okay with being vulnerable about the things that matter, you know what I mean? Like mental health and just daily struggles and, being a Christian man in the corporate world and all of those kind of things. So anyways, I think you
Yeah.
guys, he has young kids too and that kind of thing. So if y'all are ever up in that area or going to anything like that, let me know and
We'll be living somewhat closer than
That's
we
what I
do
was
now.
telling. I was like, well, I know they're moving out that direction. I don't know how far, co-ops and that kind of stuff, but he may have resources for you guys out in that area.
That's cool.
So,
It's actually pretty cool. I mean, I know that I'm a little disappointed in some ways moving from where we are here because we know so many people, and I've made more connections with like-minded people here than I had there for the first 4 years. It just seems like in the last year or so we've really made some good connections.
well, maybe through some of the co-ops have linked you through to other people and through the farming that you've been doing and that kind of stuff and the raw milk, it sounds like, those kind of things have really helped connect you and grow your network. But also, you guys go to a really cool thing on Saturday evenings. You kind of call it church, but it's like-minded
It's
conversation.
a journey group, and we're just going through a book from a lady, I can't remember, Lauren Brown or something like that. I don't know if that's her name, but
Not Brene Brown.
no.
Okay.
No. But anyway, and it's just talking about being mindful of your thoughts and dealing with, experiences of the past and coming to terms with why you are who you are and how you got there, and it's very biblical based. It relates to the Bible a lot. It's not specifically the Bible because it's its own book, obviously, but it's pretty neat. It's a lot of the things that I've been working on for quite a few years now, as far as manifestation and being who you want to be and being responsive rather than reactionary.
Yeah.
And emotional intelligence type stuff, and just kind of portrayed in a different light rather than, because I've read, can't remember the author's name, but Emotional Intelligence, it's a book.
Yeah.
And
I've read it. And have put it into practice countless times in my life.
There are some things that I don't necessarily see eye to eye with in that book, as far as the way that I tend to be emotional intelligent, or try to be.
In what ways?
I can't specifically off the top of my head remember exactly what he had said in there, but it was something to do with religion or with the belief in creation, and I just didn't agree with what he was saying. So.
I don't remember. It was, early 20s when 45 now, 25 years later.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since I've read it.
But pretty good book. Anyway, so that's the thing on Saturdays that we go to. And they have church beforehand, and the whole group is made up of homeschool families. Everybody in there has homeschooled or is homeschooling their children. They're either older or don't have kids anymore, or younger.
Very like-minded in those ways.
In a lot of ways, definitely have some room for growth when it comes down to what they put into their bodies.
Yeah.
And their idea of what is healthy food and what isn't.
Right. Okay, so do you think it's more of just ignorance, which is not a negative term, that's just a lack of knowledge?
Lack of information.
Yeah.
And lack of understanding the effect that these toxins in our food have on our body. There's definitely stages to it. So
right.
We've been on this path for 8 years, really on the path. I mean, we've been scratched the surface. I scratched the surface further back than that, for sure, but really trying to...
Being very intentional about...
Yeah, guarded about what we bring into our house, what we feed our children, what we interact with. It's, for gatherings, and what we eat, what we don't eat, if we do eat at a restaurant, which is very seldom, being very...
mindful
of which ones and aware of what they're cooking their food in or with and stuff, and so there's stages, but even before that, we were going through the stages. So no cereal, no carbohydrates from the standpoint of grains and breads and 50 ingredient things and prepackaged meals and like Hamburger Helper and really paying attention to preservatives and doing stuff like that. We just don't. I mean, if it's got more than 5 ingredients, we don't buy it. And 5 ingredients are like salt, milk, egg, and butter, and flour. Like that's, you know what I mean? That's and maybe baking soda. You know, so 6 ingredients or whatever. But there's stages even before that. Like, well, we're just going to eat fruits and vegetables and protein, but not necessarily being concerned with whether the fruits and vegetables are organic, or even if the protein is organic, or if it's grass-fed or non-grass-fed. Or I mean, the thing is with grass-fed is it's better for the animal, and you have more nutrients that are retained in the food that you're eating whenever it's grass-fed, specifically with poultry or beef or whatever. Whether that poultry or beef was raised with antibiotics, whether it was not raised with antibiotics.
Or how well it was raised, how well was it stressed?
Was it stressed out? Like what type of living environment?
Yes.
And so there's stages to all of these things, and it's really often hard to get the top tier, not from a elitist standpoint, but
just from a whole standpoint,
just
clean standpoint.
It's kind of a bad analogy, but what do you feed an Olympic athlete?
Exactly.
What do you put in a race car?
Exactly.
What do you put in an airplane?
It's not a bad analogy.
It's when I'm thinking about my children and even me, because I want to be at the peak physical condition that I can be in. I mean, obviously there's some give and take there because I can't work out as much as I would like to, but I tend to try to stay busy as far as keeping my body in shape.
Well, it's not even just about performance, but it's about longevity also, because you can take like today's athletes and these moms and how everyone is doing everything they can to support their athletes growing up, right? Which is very commendable. And you have marketing that's really, really good, and they have all these people that have the greatest intentions of trying to help people and their young ones.
Lose part of the equation.
Yeah, like, they feed them Gatorade. How terrible is that? Well, they got to have their electrolytes. They got to have all that they're an athlete. They got to replenish. They got to have spaghetti.
And they don't realize there's other options.
Yes. And not to make fun or to belittle or anything like that. Again, these are the phases that we personally have gone through. So we're not telling you something for one that we've never done or tried or been there ourselves. We've just come
it also comes down to cost too, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And
I mean, I've been tested to that right now.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't go to the grocery store, which is most people's only option, and get organic this, grass-fed that, blah, 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 whatever your desire is to get, there's different tiers to that, as far as cost. I mean, don't get me wrong, organic broccoli, or not that we buy broccoli, but organic grapes or strawberries or blueberries or whatever,
Well, you can get it at Walmart or you can get it at Sprouts. There's definitely a cost difference. So I was going to ask you.
Well, even at Walmart, and I'm saying comparatively to non-organic apples. So non-organic apples, you get a bag of 6 to 8, and it costs you $3. Organic apples, you get 5, and it costs you
$8.
$6-7. And so there is a difference in quantity and cost. But what people don't realize is that when you're eating organic food, apples, strawberries, whatever, fruit, vegetables, is the nutrient level in those are a lot higher than what you're getting in the non-organic version. But then you're also avoiding the herbicides and pesticides.
That, and also if you get things indigenous where they grow naturally, then you're getting much more nutrients out of that.
Growing it at your home.
Yeah.
Well, it's like this. I mean, as soon as you pick
well, indigenous as in where it originates from. Same thing with essential oils. The same thing applies there. But yes, you can control a lot more when you're doing it at home.
Correct. And and the distance traveled. So,
Yes.
people want to talk about global warming, this, that, and the other. Well, shipping
And the
cost has a lot to
plastics
do
they're
with
stored
that.
in. I mean,
Right.
we could go
Yeah.
so deep into this.
But when you pick it straight off off a plant or a vine or whatever, that fruit, vegetable, or fruit, or otherwise berry, starts to decompose immediately.
And
It's
also
losing nutrients
the
immediately.
stress that it's been under as well. These are living, breathing things, whether we want to realize that or not.
Yeah,
And
for
it
sure.
all is a frequency that goes into the frequency of your
Body.
body, your soul, your
Mhm.
organs, every single thing, your lifeline.
For sure. So, there's an argument there too that we should only be eating frozen fruits and vegetables. And the reason why is because the nutrient content is a lot higher. It's picked, it's washed, it's frozen.
Fresh.
And so you're freezing that nutrient level that it's at, and it's not degrading continually like it would be if it was a fresh fruit or vegetable that's on the shelf in the produce aisle.
Right.
So there's always levels and stages to what your diet is or what you want to eat in your lifestyle. And so it disappoints me that people don't know, and it disappoints me when they have a lack of information, It's because they're not trying, but they
Because
haven't
it's
had that
everywhere.
trigger in their life to realize that they need to be trying to look for different options if they want to be as healthy as possible. But some people might not be that goal, and some people financially it might not be available for this, that, and the other. But the argument there that I want to circle back to is that eating healthy is more expensive. Okay, so let's say you fill up a shopping cart full of food, and it is boxed cereal, boxed hamburger helper, it's condiments, all the different condiments that you could get, whether it's ketchup or barbecue sauce or soy sauce or whatever, and then you get milk from the store. It's been pasteurized. It's another thing that we need to circle back to is milk and the contents in it and how the difference between raw milk. But you fill up your basket, and let's say you spend $300-400. Well, then and it's non-organic. You're just buying what looks good, what you want to feed your children, what you want to feed your family, feed yourself, and you're getting chips and soda and milk and bread and butter and everything, the whole gambit, the whole food pyramid.
All the marketing.
And then you bring that home and you eat that, and it lasts you, let's just say it lasts you, that's what you're going to eat for the entire month. Your budget's $500. That basket was full, and you're eating all of this stuff. And so you've got a bunch of pasta, and it's a large quantity to fill up your stomach, to fill up the void in your stomach. That food is so much less nutrient dense. And let's say you go the next month and you buy $500 worth of organic fruits and vegetables, no boxed food, no highly processed this, no highly processed that. You buy your meat, and maybe your meat is not organic, but it's just meat. Well, that's a stage. That's a different phase. Okay, you might still spend $500, and you might only fill up your basket halfway, but the nutrient content in that, you eat a smaller quantity of food, so
That's going to sustain you longer.
that's going to sustain you longer because of the nutrient level in it, and you can still feed your entire family for that month. I mean, obviously, there's different circumstances. You've got to figure out the right combination
Right. So
for your family.
that's what, like I was going to say earlier, and I just want to pause for just a second for our listeners because this is years. This is
of experimentation.
I started in 2011 trying to figure out, okay, when actually before that, I mean, we've always been very health conscious and minded and athletes, competitive athletes, so we've always had interest in performance and enhancement, but always had an organic mindset as well. Whatever we can do that, but we haven't, I guess, because we grew up that way. And then we kind of got sidetracked with marketing also, right? Everyone does it. So we're not, again, saying anything that we haven't already done ourselves, and just wanting people to realize that it has taken a long time. We went through all these phases of the overwhelm of everything, all the choices and what's what and what do we actually choose. And you have probably, advanced more than anyone as far as in my network, our, family and that kind of thing. So you've made it really easy over the last couple of years, especially through my diagnosis, to help me figure out, a more advanced, efficient way of overall health and wellness and food and
strategy.
Nutrients. The strategy, yes, exactly. So just again, back to, didn't want to cut you off, really, it gets too sidetracked, but I think it's really important that people understand that this is, it can be a very long, grueling process. But if you actually hear us out and listen to some of the other episodes as well, that's what we're here for, is to empower you to be able to have the most efficient strategy to reaching your goals, no matter if it's health related, business related, family related, whatever the goal is. That's our jam.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, plug real quick, go back, listen to all the other episodes, make sure you re-listen to this one and take notes, because we're not just having a fun catch-up conversation, which we absolutely enjoy so much, but we're really trying to... By the way, I ran into an old buddy from high school. Well, I'd say buddy, we didn't even really speak or know each other. I mean, we knew who each other were, I guess, but didn't, communicate much back then. We still are, I guess, highly introverted, but I told him that I had a podcast and mentioned that, some of the projects that I'm working on and that kind of stuff, and he has listened to all of our episodes. And he said that he really enjoys it, and he's like a professional podcaster. He's listened to millions of hours of podcasting, and he has given us major props. He's like, you guys are really professional and really interesting, and isn't that so cool? I know. I was are you kidding me? Like, that is the coolest compliment I've ever... The fact that he's even taken the time to listen to it, you know what I mean? And then he's like talking about, he's listened to all of them. He loves Regina. He's like, I just really like that other one that you have on there. And she has some really cool things to say. And anyways.
Wow, that's cool.
So I thought that was just a really cool compliment.
We just need to keep at it.
Yeah, we do.
We should just make it you and me. And then if you want to interview somebody.
Well, that's what I do. I call these the bro sessions.
Cool.
Yeah. And then the bestie sessions with Regina. And then if it's anybody else, it's just the random thoughts some useful, you know what I mean? Cool. The whole idea of random thoughts some useful was just to interview the gurus, the authorities in the subjects that, that are within my reach. Mm-hmm. And again, like we talked about earlier, just to empower people. Also, by the way, we are at my brother's home. And this podcast is extremely organic. We're usually outside in the woods, but the mosquitoes have been really bad lately. So we're inside today and keeping with the organic theme that we have anyway. We've got the kiddos in the background, so if you hear them, everything is fine.
We could probably move outside. I've got some organic spray that we use. It's got, I don't know, I think it's got 8 different herbs, essential oils in it, and it's just hydrogen peroxide mixed with essential oil.
Let's do it. Let's give it a go. Give it a try.
I think it's nice.
Let's go out there by Marie and see how she's doing. And do you want to grab something to eat before you?
No, I'm not
You're
hungry.
good.
If you want to eat, go ahead.
No, I'm good. I know that that's what time it is out there. It smells like it anyway. Sorry. I gotta come this way. Oh. Oh, it goes both ways.
You telling me? Oh, waffles. That was good.
Oh, yummy.
Sourdough waffles.
You guys done?
No, we're going to go
Yeah.
outside.
We're still doing it. We're gonna go out by in the back and in nature.
I'm ready for a waffle. I'm too.
Hey, buddy. How are you?
Trying
throw off puppy.
Oh, gotcha.
She sees going outside,
She'll run after us.
immediately follow.
She loves it outside.
Yeah, she does.
But she's what, 2.5 now, maybe?
Yeah. She'll be 3 in December.
This one?
Yeah, that's just beautiful.
She's our New Year's Eve baby. She's so cute. And I can't believe that Lily's baby ended up being born the same day.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Our little niece had her little baby the same day as last year. So she's about six, whatever. What are we in? Yeah, 6 months old.
Oh, the wind might be an issue. Michael's back inside.
Oh, well, maybe we can just... What if we... maybe a stump. Shut this.
It doesn't matter. Nope.
She's so pretty. I love her coloring. We're sitting on your Kayla's Mother's Day
Picnic table.
table.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I like it.
I don't know. Maybe we can... Well, that's what these things are for,
Yeah, the
right?
dead cat or dirty cat
Yeah.
or whatever.
So maybe
Yeah, it
it'll
might
be
work
fine.
out. Might work out.
Maybe it'll be fine. Okay, so we were talking about...
Food. And
And
the
all-
different nutrient levels of food. But I think we've covered that. I'll go
Most
back
of
to
it?
milk.
Yeah. We're talking
So-
about pasteurized milk.
Yeah, so pasteurized versus non-pasteurized. So non-pasteurized, it's going to retain, but raw milk, that's what raw milk is. It's going to retain 70% more of the nutrients that are in the milk, but it's also going to have the beneficial bacteria and enzymes for your body to digest it. One of the reasons why people have such a hard time digesting milk from the store is because whenever you pasteurize milk, heat it to a certain temperature to kill off any bacteria. Bad bacteria is the reason why they want to do it. And if you're shipping it all across the United States or wherever in supermarkets, that's why they do it. They don't want bacteria breeding. And then when you're going through the process of patching it or packaging it, shipping it, and so on, more contaminants can be introduced to it. So that's why they heat it to kill any of that bacteria through that process to ship and distribute it. Well, with raw milk, it doesn't have that. And then if you get it from a local dairy, you're just getting it straight out of the cow. It's immediately filtered and then put into bottles and refrigerated. And so that milk usually is within a day from the cow. Well, the milk in the store could be weeks from the cow. And so that's essentially the reason why raw milk is so much more beneficial, is because it's higher nutrient content and you're getting the beneficial bacteria, microbacteria that will be in your digestive system that's coming from that milk. So it's essentially a probiotic at that point. And it has the digestive enzymes in it as well for humans to be able to digest it, comparatively to the milk that you get from the store that doesn't have the beneficial bacteria or the enzymes to help you digest that milk. Thus, people are lactose intolerant.
Which is why everyone's seeking probiotics and prebiotics and enzymes, when if we would just...
Yeah. So, in having children and learning along with my wife, because, she did a lot of reading with breastfeeding and stuff like that, is that whenever you are born, you're introduced to the bacteria that's in your mother's gut.
Yes.
Through the vaginal birth process. And so that's how you're jump starting the baby.
Yes.
But also through the placenta and the umbilical cord, you're getting introduced through probiotics, two probiotics from your mother as well, and antibodies and so on. And so that's why, the birthing process is so important, rather than cloning or putting them in a sack and, having a child born from some type of lab or whatever.
Right. Well, even C-sections. So there's been a rise in autoimmune problems since there have been so many more C-sections rather than the vaginal births, for that reason, what you're talking about.
If that's causation, it's potentially a contributing factor, but
No, I've done the research. It literally is. You literally are. There's specific bacteria that you do pick up as you go through the birth
100%,
canal. Yeah,
100%. But what I'm saying is that one of the reasons why we have all those autoimmune system problems as well is because of the herbicides and pesticides in our food, but also the modern medical system.
Yes.
When it comes down to what you put in your body, what you put on your body, our shampoos, our conditioners, our colognes.
Shoot them up with as soon as they're born too. Yeah. But no, literally the shampoos, they're called xenoestrogens.
Yep.
The phytoestrogens are good. Xenoestrogens are the ones that you get from, it's like the byproduct of all the plastics, the microplastics, we could go, deep dive on that as well.
It's like this web.
It really is.
It all connects.
Well, you know what it reminds me of that you say that? Like the web that you see of all the conspiracy theories and all the different intricacies and how everything is.
Our own web.
Of all of that kind of stuff.
We should develop our own web.
Yeah, we should.
Have the body in the middle.
Yeah.
And then...
I love this.
Potentially, I don't know if you should do it inversely though. Yeah, maybe we'd have two webs. So you have
I'll take
the
this
center.
out.
The center of the web is the human body. You've got two separate webs beside each other, and on the right you have. Let's just say on the left. On the left you have meat, fruit, vegetables, hygiene products, medicine around. Okay, those are the secondary bubbles. You have the line from the body to each one. Well, then past that you have immune system problems. You've got from the medical one. You've got immune system problem bubble connected to food. You've got you know what I mean? And so it branches out that way, and then you just keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going, and you build this entire web. Well, then on the right side, you have the human body, and you have organic fruit, organic vegetables, organic. So you've got organic on the right, just standard.
Maybe in the middle, you have all of the, like, your environment and your mind and all of the other.
We're going to develop our own web.
Yes, I love this.
I think it's going to be cool.
We're going to do this.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
We should write a book together.
I'm in. Let's do it.
So, or maybe that's an appearance in my, I can't remember the name of it now. I'll have to look it up. But it's basically all about everything that we're talking about, all of the things that I've learned along my wellness journey. You know what I mean? But it includes recipes and different things like that in it as well. Mm-hmm. But anyway, yeah. So
milk, it's just so much more beneficial in the raw form. You're getting it straight from the cow, so it has more nutrients in it because it hasn't traveled as far. It's got more nutrients in it because it hasn't been pasteurized, heated to a certain point where it kills all the beneficial microbes and so on in there. And it's just so much better for you. But yeah, we've been doing that for 5 years. And
what differences have you seen? Improvements in anything specific in any of the kiddos? Wasn't one of them, well, I know Lincoln had some bouts of where he would hold his breath and different things like that. What prompted you guys to switch to raw milk? Or
just reading over the years and trying to improve our lifestyle in so many ways, just trying to take that next step. Once we master, okay, now we're just doing organic fruits, or now we're just doing vegetables out of the garden. Now we're just doing our own beef cattle, and we know what is in those beef cattle. It's just another piece of the puzzle that I wanted to eventually add once we found the opportunity to. I would have started earlier, but I didn't have a source for it.
Right.
So it's just something that was always on the list that I wanted to add, that I just hadn't had the opportunity to do so yet. But because of the benefits from it, this knowledge and information isn't because I'm out there pulling samples from raw milk and then milk from the store and doing all the chemistry and everything myself. I just like anybody else, you read and learn and try to adapt things that you think are beneficial to your life. And whether I thought that it was going to be something that was specifically going to treat some ailment that maybe somebody in our family had. It wasn't necessarily my motivation. It was just another beneficial thing that I wanted to add.
Okay, so how about with yourself, where you started health-wise and where you are now over this 8-year journey?
Digestion is a lot better. Consistency with bowel movements. I think I have better energy. I have more mental clarity. I think I have a better spiritual relationship with my Creator. I think I'm a lot more level-headed. And again, it comes back to the emotional intelligence thing. I'm more responsive rather than reactionary. And I think I talked about this in the past in another podcast, but making deliberate responses rather than subconscious reactions to your world and your environment and the situation that you're in. And I think it has a lot to do with me and my personal time as far as praying and meditating, but it also has to do with the way that I'm affected from my food.
Right.
And I think I have, you can build a tree house with pallets.
Right.
But you can also build it with dimension lumber that's really nice and clean and neat. And a pallet fort is really cool. Pallet tree house is really cool, and it's awesome to reuse material.
So
and you can make it
isn't
happen. But it's not always exactly what you want. It's not always the precise amount. So you have to make compromises on the size and the shape. But when you have dimension lumber and you can kind of plan it ahead of time and you're building this masterpiece,
it's a much more efficient process.
It's just a little bit, it's a little more efficient. So I kind of think of it the same way with your body.
Well, I've often told people, coaching them about health and weight loss and different things over the years, is, you really have to get to a point where you look at your food as fuel and how it's going to power your body. Because like we talked about earlier, you can, we've got jet fuel, you've got, all these different variations. And basically it's going to determine your outcome. Or maybe not right now. Maybe you won't see it immediately, but longevity wise, in the long run, you're going to see it. Oh, she's up moving around. And she's wagging her tail. Swamp flies, I guess. Not really like a dog, huh?
Oh, she wiggles her tail whenever she's drinking a bottle.
So they do? They kind of, kind of like
she's
a
eating
dog?
some more grain. I've got
Good.
Bermuda hay in there too. And then a mineral salt block mixture and fresh water.
Good.
And then I gave her raw milk this morning because it's from the same, probably not from her mom, but
right.
Same cow, same dairy. And I put bentonite clay in the milk to help draw any toxins that might be in her body.
Yeah.
And for bacteria, harmful bacteria. And then I've been doing electrolyte twice a day.
And you've been
and
putting
did
your hands on
a vitamin syringe. It's B complex vitamin syringe that I've been giving her too.
Okay. And laying your hands on her,
healing
her.
Yeah, she's
getting her used to, guys, but also healing her.
Yeah.
She was really dehydrated and had diarrhea when they brought her home, so they've been nursing her back to health for the last couple of days, and she's just doing great. She could barely even get up on her own last time. I don't know if it was because she was so scared or what, but I've posted some pictures and stuff on social media. I'm going to do another post soon.
Cool.
But I need to, while I'm here, transfer these that I took to Kayla.
Yeah, please do.
Because there's some good ones. I took a lot of video though, so you'll have to just go through the video and capture good photos of everyone. You know what I mean? Because there was a lot more video than I took of photos. And I haven't gone through the video. I've edited the photos, or eliminated them. I don't do any editing really anymore. But
right. Well, thank you.
The goal, people talk about all the time. This came up in a conversation last week about photography and how you spend so much time editing and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I mean, I kind of say it arrogantly, like if you don't know what you're doing, then yes. Or if you want to make a specific finish and feel to a photograph or something like that, you know, black and white or those kind of things. But even that shouldn't take that long. Like, the goal is for the image to come out perfectly exposed and cropped and all of that whenever you take the picture, you know what I mean? But for those of you that don't know, I was a bit of a photographer at one time, and just kind of got into it. I took a black and white photography course in college just because I needed an elective, and ended up falling in love with it. My instructor had to let me borrow her camera, and Justice, my daughter, was my subject at the time. She was an infant then, before we adopted her when she was 4. She was our niece, and did a couple of just weddings for friends and things like that. And then when we moved up to DC, I had taken a Photoshop course in college, and we moved up there, and I was like, well, and at that point I had been in the medical field and, you know, administrative type stuff with verifying benefits and scheduling people for surgeries and those kind of things. But I decided I wanted to kind of see about an artistic career, so I applied as just to fulfill orders, like literally pick up the photos that were developed and put the orders together and ship them out is what I applied for at this photography firm that had been the official White House photographer for all during the 80s and 90s. And then this was 2005, and he was getting into day trading. And so he needed somebody to take over the day-to-day photography stuff so that he could do his day trading, him and his daughter. And so I learned a lot about trading because I sat right there, because eventually, so I started just fulfilling orders, and then I really quickly took over the in-house portraits, and then really quickly started doing I would set up at all the law firms and take portraits of all of the new partners. And then from there I went to taking meet and greet photos of all of the constituents on the Hill. So they were meeting with Congress and senators, and I would literally have this list that was like 20 pages long of appointment after appointment after appointment after appointment, all freaking day long, like every 10 minutes. And I would have to literally run, literally, physically, no bullshit, sprint up and down the stairs on all of the House and Senate, trying to get to every one of these freaking meet and greets that I could. I was so skinny then, I didn't eat at all. It was just nonstop doing that all day long. So that lasted about 6 months, and I got to do some really cool stuff though. I moved into like keynote speaking, so I got to take pictures of like Condoleezza Rice and Newt Gingrich and Colin Powell and Hillary at the time, and Zig Ziglar. Let me tell you about the Zig Ziglar story. I didn't even know I was taking pictures of, I didn't know who Zig Ziglar was. I didn't have a clue. I was not into like self-help and stuff then. I was working 90 hours a week in DC. New mom, we had just adopted Justice, right? This was right when you were about to graduate high school. You remember coming up there and break dancing in the subways? You were so awesome. You've always been awesome.
Thanks.
So anyways, oh my gosh. It's a keynote speaker thing, and I'm outside the convention. It's a big convention type thing, and I don't know what any of it is. I'm not paying attention to any of this, right? I don't care about any of it.
Yeah.
I'm 25 years old and really distracted in life. So I'm standing out here in this little, the area, and they have like tables up, and you're all just like mingling, beforehand. Well, everyone else has already gone inside, and it's just myself waiting for the keynote speaker to come on, right? So I know what time that is, and that's when I go in, blah, 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 blah. Well, this man is out here, and they're with me, and he's talking to me, and we're just having this delightful conversation. This is literally the spark of my self-improvement journey, Jake. It is the craziest thing in the world. So we're just having this magical conversation, and he's talking to me about my future, and he's talking to me about what I want in life, and no one has ever spoken to me about any of these kind of things before, ever. And I'm just enjoying the hell out of it. And he talks about like a elevator speech, that 30-second, like, what do I do kind of type thing. And he's like, what do you do? And he teaches me how to build my elevator speech.
Wow.
I go in, photograph him, doing all his things and all this kind of thing, and I go on about my life.
And
literally.
It was Zig Ziglar.
10 years later, Jake, I come across a quote, and it says Zig Ziglar on it. And I'm like, well, hold up. Zig Ziglar? I start doing my research, and he's this huge thought leader. And was huge when I met him, and I had no idea who he was, and he was the coolest person in the world that I think I've ever met.
That's cool. That's a good story.
Yeah, it was wild. So anyways, that's my photography career. So then from there, I quickly, in about 6 months, I applied an ad for a second shooter for weddings. And he gave me a body with a 50 millimeter fixed lens on it, meaning I would have to move my body to zoom in and zoom out, right? Not a zoom, not anything easy.
Yeah.
Had zero expectations. I was literally there so that he could charge for having a second shooter, even though I had zero skill, right?
Yeah.
And that was my first gig with the dude. Like, that was my interview, basically. And I ended up with 8 out of 35 images. It was a very traditional album of just the photographs, right? Where we ended up going very modern with our designs. We had 3 different variations of albums that we offered, and the most enjoyable that I found were the modern kind of coffee table book layout design type that I ended up getting into too. That was really cool. But anyways, this particular album was very traditional, and they had 35 prints, literally professional prints that they matted into this very, very expensive album, and I had 8 of those photos.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So that was super. That totally, wow. Okay, that blew up my photography career. At that point, I was like, definitely, I want to get with this guy. So I ended up full-time with him in his high-rise in Reston, Virginia, and we were doing major lifestyle, high-end. I mean, the average booking for photography alone, just what they paid us to do photography for him and I, the average booking was $12,000.
Wow, that's cool.
Just for photography. So then I quickly became the second photographer, lead photographer, and I was doing my own weddings. They were booking me for $5,000, and I had a person shooting with me.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was very cool. And so then he was paying these 2 ladies $50,000 a year. One of them was like the office manager, and the other one was the album designer. Okay, and I was just doing photography and editing photos. Okay, and then he was just overseeing the whole thing, right? And we would come to his high rise, and it was so great because we would have like our meetings, our weekly meetings. We'd go down to the local whatever eating establishment. We'd have our martinis and we'd brainstorm, and it was just so much fun. Anyway, yeah, it was great. But anyways, so we did 55 weddings together that first season.
Wow.
There's only 52 weeks in a year.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Between the 2 of us, it was, we did major. It was so fun. Gosh, the venues that I got to experience, the money. If they were paying $12,000 just for photography, can you imagine the venues and the presentations? And the Knot magazine is a very well-known magazine now, but it had just started whenever we were up there, and they were just getting things going. And so basically they took over the whole, revolutionized the wedding planning industry, right? It's literally plan your own wedding online. Everything that you would ever pay a wedding planner for, you do for yourself. Complete list of resources of every vendor you can ever imagine, because everybody wants to be on there and be found, right? So it literally takes wedding planning out of the picture. So they did a whole wedding show, like a bridal show, and we were the official photographers for this.
Oh, that's cool.
Jake, every high-end everything in Washington, D.C. was in this venue, okay? There were models. They were getting their hair done by the most expensive hairdressers. They were Vera Wang. I had did a wedding that was, the bride was Vera Wang. My signature photograph ended up being her stepping into her Vera Wang shoe. She's got her dress hiked up, and all you can see is just her dress.
I have no idea who Vera Wang is.
And knee down. Some of our listeners will. Knee down and stepping into her shoe, and you can read Vera Wang on her shoe, and it was just very, that venue was incredible. It was this grove of these particular trees that were so like knotted. It was just very I don't know what kind of tree. I'd love to go back there. I wish I could experience DC now, like who I am now, you know what I mean? Because for one, then I was just working nonstop and I wasn't absorbing what I was experiencing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's so much that is free and to do there, but there was so much life that I lived and went through and experienced then too that I didn't really
get to enjoy it.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Or appreciate it.
Yeah. What was your experience coming up there whenever you were just graduated? You just graduated high school, man. You got the world at your fingertips and you are let loose in the middle of Washington, D.C.
That was cool. It was cool. It was, I think that was probably what made me realize that I wanted to travel. And it had a lot to do with my traveling whenever I went in the military. Instead of just being that typical soldier that just is on the base or around the base in close proximity,
You explored.
I wanted to get away from the base. I wanted to go see things. So it's the same thing I did in South Korea and Germany and all over Europe. And it was just, I think that probably is what sparked my interest in doing that. And then when I joined the military, I had the option of Hawaii or South Korea. And I chose South Korea because it wasn't the United States and I wanted to travel. I figured Hawaii would be cool too, but I'm not a big fan of water.
We didn't grow up on water.
I don't really, water is whatever. I mean, it's great. I love water, but I'm not a big fan of swimming so I just figured that it wasn't a big deal. And I thought South Korea was more interesting. So going to DC and seeing all that stuff, and I've always grown up patriotic, and it was cool to see those monuments and stuff. I mean, the way I think about it now is different than what I thought about it then,
Yeah.
But it was still cool, still exciting. It's cool to just go off and do my own thing. That was awesome.
I remembered, so we had to work during the day, and I made you a map. I remember this now. Oh my gosh, it's coming back to me. I made you a map, and it had little Jakes all over the different points of interest.
Yeah, and back then, there really wasn't smartphone,
No.
Google Maps, blah, blah. I can't remember when Google Maps was developed, but it was probably somewhat around that time, but I just had an old cheap phone.
Yeah, because I remember, as a photographer up there, all my gigs that I had to go to, I literally had to print out a map quest of all of my different jobs for that day and make sure that I knew, because, oh my gosh, there was one time, Jake, that, okay, first of all, four rights do not get you back to the same place in that area of the country. They did not have the land run and grid everything out like we did in Oklahoma, right? So you take 4 rights and you're gone like 30 minutes out of your way or more, right? So this one particular time I'm on the Beltway and I am so close to being late. First of all, it was 2.5 hours a day that I drove in traffic, getting from our house to daycare to work and back. It was insane up there. And it was literally only like 17 miles that I drove.
Yeah,
it was so dumb up there. So anyways, this one day I ended up on the Beltway like an idiot and I missed my exit. You don't miss your exit up there. You're gone for an hour. It'll take you an hour to get back to it. Oh my God. I realized as soon as I missed it,
oh no,
the on-ramp from the next, like you keep going and then you've got the on-ramp. I literally reversed that shit up the on-ramp that day and got to where I was
down
going.
the on-ramp or? Yeah.
Well, reversed up the on ramp, like
wow.
literally, yeah, like I was, you're supposed to be going straight
I got you.
down the getting on, and I reversed it all the way up the
Wow.
on ramp to get back to where it was supposed to be going. I couldn't do it. I had to be there. I couldn't miss it. But anyway, yeah.
Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Gotta do what you gotta do. That was such an incredible experience up there.
This wind is annoying me. Let's go back to the office.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay, when we get in there, next we're going to talk about legacy, which kind of all leads us into that.
Man, those waffles smell.
Phenomenal. Delicious.
Okay, that's a little too high. The highest.
I love the lights on the plants and the music and the laughter.
Yeah, Kayla's awesome. She has an awesome
Your home.
way of running our house.
Well, you guys are just the most precious things in the world to me. You know that.
Thank you.
I love the way you do everything.
Appreciate it.
You're very intentional about your life. And from the way we were talking earlier about, getting up in the morning and having your time by yourself and God and whatever it is that you do. I mean, for me, Mom and Dad, I spend an absorbent amount of time by myself. I really only see them on Sunday for dinner, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or if I happen to be leaving and Dad's out there or Mom's out there and we'll say hi real quick or something like that, or if I happen to be outside and they're out there, but they usually are not, you know? Yeah. I'm usually out there by myself, so I don't see them often at all, but I don't remember what my point was. Intentional.
Being intentional
Sundays.
with your times.
So Sundays, I love the whole idea of gathering with others that are like-minded and having church, right? But I'm not great at the traditional and vehicle-wise transportation. I don't have the luxury right now of being able to just hop in the car and go wherever I want kind of thing either, you know what I mean? So I make the best of it. I'm always about make lemonade, do whatever you can to improvise and do what is within your means, right? It doesn't, just because you can't drive to church on Sunday doesn't mean that I can't have a relationship and feed my soul and, all those kind of things. So anyways, I do my normal routine on Sundays, which is get up and I play church and I do yoga and I do my workout and I set goals and I, all of the things, the me time that is productive, that is so crucial. You know what I mean? So that's how I spend most of my mornings as well. It's a little mini version of that 4-hour journey that I go on Sundays kind of type thing. So, anyways, you guys are very intentional about the way that you raise your kids, about the way you live your life, your lifestyle, all of that. And you were saying earlier about how much it just makes you feel so much better. You're setting the intention for the day and it's almost like it gets the ball rolling and kind of snowballs into awesomeness rather than, and I mean, yeah, you have ebb and flows of things, right? It's hard to maintain
being in the right mindset.
Yeah.
It really, really is a game changer.
Well, it sets you up to be able to intercept those ebb and flows and not respond or react, be able to respond rather than react, kind of type thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really a great thing to be doing, and I encourage everybody to do that. Really,
and figure out what works for you. And a lot of times people have said meditation is they don't know how to meditate. There's many different levels of meditation and ways of meditating. Like sometimes I will assume the position and meditate and try to focus on something very, be very intentional about what it is that I'm meditating on. But then there are times too that I lucid meditation where I just allow my mind to wonder. And sometimes I start there, because if you can get all of that racing thoughts and things out, then maybe you can focus more, that kind of thing. So just encourage everybody to just figure out what works for you, but also at the same time, be careful of using that as an excuse. Because sometimes I'm trying to figure it doesn't work for everybody, and we use that as an excuse of not doing it because of that. So sometimes just getting started is what it's about, right? I mean, it doesn't, let's see. So Barack Obama did not coin this phrase, but he is the most well known for it, and it is don't let perfection be the enemy of good. Like, you got to start with the first step. Just get started, kind of thing. All right, let's shift into legacy, which we've been basically talking about this the whole time. The south road here, where the waterfall and everything is, I want that to be the entrance of the retreat and healing center part, and you know what I mean? And then like develop all of that into a park type atmosphere, you know what I mean? Where you can walk around the healing garden. Can you visualize this? Is it not going to be? And then I put it all online too, so you can really get the visual of how things look too. So
That would be awesome.
anyways,
I can see it.
that's what I've been spending my time on. Well, I am not working full time. I'm using all of the skills that I used to use working full time, trying to create this for our world. You know what I mean? Because it's scalable, right? I've talked about putting it in.
It's really a pretty good spot too. You've got 37 nearby. You're not too far from I-35. You've got I-44 right here. It's in the middle of a community. It's close to a school.
You got to take a little bit of a drive, but that's okay. It's worth it.
Yeah.
It's absolutely worth it.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Be really cool. You could do a fenced entrance past the waterfall, or maybe not right past the waterfall, because you could turn that into a spot where people could sit in the water.
Yes.
And near the waterfall, but you could see it from the entrance or whatever. Maybe, I don't know how you want to play that, but you could have it, the area, the grounds immediately surrounding the building for the healing center, have it all fenced off to where you can go out and walk in the grass, and it's nice and pretty, and there's flowers and everything planted, and then you have the fence around it, and that's where all your livestock.
Yes.
And
So I want
barns.
to build a pond in the middle. So the main strip there, I want it to look like a main street, old town Main Street buildings, right?
That'd be cool.
And so so it's two different buildings, and it's huge. There's going to be apartments in there. There's space for 200 apartments, and some of that will be staff and some of it will be Airbnb, but I would love to build like-minded community is what I'm trying to do, right? I'm building a cult. I'm not. But definitely it will feel exclusive,
That'd be really cool.
but it'll be affordable.
That'd be really cool. I can see it.
So that road, I was saying, put all of that there, but it has all those terraces too, with and the red dirt and all that. I want to preserve all of that and make it to where it's in part of the landscape and the parks and the walks and all of those kind of things. But pond, I was trying to say, so behind those buildings I want to build a huge pond, and then all of the what do you call that, what did I call it on the website, where they're helping work the farm, those people, farm hands, whatever. But if you want to stay after you heal and help and that kind of stuff. So I want those to be these A-framed pods that are all out around the pond, right? That is near all the stables and the all that kind of stuff as well. But the pond will separate their living quarters from the whole healing village, if you will.
That'd be cool. That'd be really neat.
Anyways, I'm doing what I can to get the vision out, right? I mean, we'll see what
It will.
happens.
God will provide.
Yeah.
Don't worry about your goals and the money that would come from it, because God will provide. He provided you with the thought of the creation that you want,
Exactly.
and one way or another, you just keep heading in the direction that you feel like God wants you to go. That's honestly the way that I live my life.
Right. Same thing with you guys moving and the direction you're headed.
Yeah. The value of the land out there is a lot better. I think this keeps dying. I think it's running out of battery.
Oh, maybe so. Well, I was about to say we're probably pretty much done anyway. Well, that was a great one.
Cool.
Lots of good information there for everyone. Hopefully you find it useful.
Appreciate it.
There was one podcast when we started back and we said something. I can't remember what it was now. We need to figure out what it was.
Live the life the way you want. Be the change you want to see in the world.
Maybe that was it. I think maybe.
I use
Yeah.
that all the time. I say it.
Yeah.
I've said it
all
for
the
years
time.
in all of my videos and stuff.
Yeah.
Be the change you want to see in the world. Because that's how change starts.
Yep.
You have to be the change.
Right. You got to start because waiting on somebody else, they're not going to.
Yeah. You got to be the change you want to see.
Sometimes you have to be the spark. Shine bright, people. Until next time.
Bye.
You guys, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Random Thoughts Some Useful. If this spoke to your soul, please be sure to hit that subscribe button, share this with your friends and family, or even leave us a review. And come find me on all platforms at Apothecarying Jen so we can stay connected. Until next time, stay grounded, stay high vibe, and stay true to you.